People power growth, but recruiting and onboarding are expensive, exhausting, and absolutely overwhelming. I've been there, and it doesn't have to be this way. Welcome to Hire and Empower. I'm your host, Molly McGrath. Join me as we interview leaders who care about their teams and distill powerful lessons from them. This show is sponsored by H&E, helping organizations to find their best hire and empower them for success. Learn more at hiringandempowering.com. There's no mistake that the name of this podcast is money, period. Because all y'all just will open up everything and click on effing everything that has to be about double your revenue, this, triple your sales, this, money, 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 money. And that is the conversation that entrepreneurs are chasing constantly. I see your P&Ls. I see your Facebook posts like, oh, look at this amazing workshop we're at on double your revenue, and KPIs are all about what's your goals that you want. And every single time I work with a new firm, the measuring stick is always money. And I'm super honored today to have my coach, Grant Robe, here. And he's going to kick our asses and hopefully transform our, not hopefully, definitely, if you're open to it, transform our mindset around this conversation called money. And how I found Grant was through Facebook, and a gal by the name of Sam which is a friend of a friend of a friend. I'm not even sure that we're friends, and somehow saw a comment, somebody asking about a coach. Working with a coach, and Sam put all these amazing things that Grant did for her. But the thing that stood out to me was, ironically, about her business. So I'm like, all right, I got to get on the phone and have a chat with this dude and figure out. I loved everything that she said about transforming her mindset, knowing her own value, truly knowing who she is, and everything. But at the end of the day, when I got on the phone with Grant for our very first call, and he asked me a question, which he reminded me of 2 weeks ago, that I don't even remember that he asked me, tell me who you are. And I told him, oh, I'm a business coach, I do all this. And he's like, bullshit, like, just stop it. Like, tell me who you are. All the money's gone, everything's stripped away. Like, who are you to your core? And we had this extraordinary conversation around money. And I'm grateful that he's here on our podcast to share with my listeners and do me this extraordinary favor of really flipping the script and flipping all of this on our head as entrepreneurs. Because if we're the end game is money, money, money. Like when he found me, or when I found him, and when he agreed to take me on as a client, and he doesn't just take on anybody, I was cooked, I was exhausted. And the end game was about all these goals that I had about doubling my revenue and profitability and everything. And we just dismantled it. And Grant, I'm going to stop. Thank you, first of all, for being here. I'm so grateful.
Very welcome. I'm looking forward to the conversation. As always, every time we speak, I look forward to the conversation because I never know what's going to come up. And I think that's the exciting piece. So I'm looking forward to this. I hope your listeners get a real fucking wake up call, because that's what I'm all about. And let's see where it goes. But I'll set the tone on money's just a construct. And so when we start on that basis, we've got a lot to unveil and a lot to dive into. So let's see where the conversation goes. I'm looking forward to it.
I love it. You kick off with the F-bomb. I was about to tell you we can swear here, but you beat me to the punch. So tell me, tell our listeners who you are. Give us a little backstory.
So as you've alluded to, my name is Grant Robe. I was based, should I say, in the southeast of England, just outside of London. I now live in the northeast of the UK. It's a little bit wetter, a little less sunny, but it's a lot more me. I'm a former competitive swimmer, swim at a national level, have a national medal to my name here in the UK. And that shaped me in the largest sense on who I am today. And we'll probably discuss some of the beliefs that brought out. When I went to university, I graduated, I chopped and changed courses. So you could say I'm an academic because I have a first class degree, but that's bullshit in itself. And that shapes a lot of our money beliefs. Moved into sales when I graduated. Didn't really like the working for somebody else. Started to research and find alternative means to live the life of your dreams. You know, the good entrepreneurial journey that we go on. I came across network marketing for a period of time, and that introduced me to personal development. And I fucking love personal development, but probably not the same as everybody else. You know, I like the real personal development, not the pink fluffy stuff. Get on stage, Tony Robbins jump up and down. That's not really me. It works for some people, but I don't find that it's underpinned by stability. So that led me to Robert Kiyosaki. That led me to property development and investment, understanding assets, liabilities, big business, self-employment, employee, all that good cash flow quadrant, as he calls it. So that really started to shape who I was, what I was getting into, and the mindset of transitioning from being an athlete and being in the kind of world of business. Got into property investment. We specialized in foreign investment coming into the UK and deploying that into large scale projects, mainly around the Midlands, as we call it here in the UK, which is basically the center of the country, and around kind of southeast as well in London. At the peak of what I was doing with a business partner, we were turning over just over $750,000 in revenue. So dollars wise, probably just shy of $1 million in revenue a year. And we were good at what we did. You know, we were good at what we did, but I lost myself in that journey, and it all became about the money. You know, the fucking 10, 15, 20, 30, 60, $100 months or pound months. You know, they gave me the buzz and the kick. All the while I became fat, lethargic, and ultimately lost my marriage because of it. And that made me reevaluate who I was, who I'd become. You know, nice, lean athlete, you know, body of an Adonis, as I was once told. And then, you know, I'm nearly 19 stone with a sizable set of man boobs, should we say. It changes you as a person when you see that in the mirror. So I got into NLP, I got into mindset, and I again enjoyed the personal development piece of it all. You know, I loved learning. I do love learning. But now I learn from experience rather than academics and knowledge. And I think that's a really fundamental part as well when we start to talk about money as we're going to. So I worked with a coach myself, completely changed my life, you know, completely changed how I saw myself, my map of the world, etc. And I thought mindset's the way to go. So I retrained, launched an online coaching business through the lockdowns and all the COVID nonsense. And, you know, again, it all became about the money. So we're talking a very short timeline here where my mindset has changed around what money means and the identity that we give it, because I was all about the money. You know, I was like, calling the property investment to a close because of restrictions. So I launched an online coaching business, and I did 100 grand in the first year. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, boom, we'll go again. And then very quickly started to fall into the same habits, patterns, behaviors. And I could see where I was going to go. Because I'd been there before, i.e. the long hours, striving for the money, etc. So my realization really occurred when my daughter was born, just over 3 years ago, and I started to change my perceptions around what I really valued in life. And what I came to the conclusion was I actually didn't value myself, and I didn't pay myself any attention. I didn't listen to my own counsel. You know, I was all materialism. Give me all the material things, the nice Range Rover, the 5-bed, 4-bathroom house, you know, it's worth best part of £1 million. Well, all that stuff, I lapped it up. I loved it. And because of that, when I started to lose it all, because I did lose pretty much everything at that point, you know, we hear about the entrepreneurial journey, I lost myself. And for me, I contemplated taking my own life because I had attached my identity to money. And so with no money, I saw it as, what's the point in me being here? And that's where probably about 18 months ago, I really started to understand myself. And so today I love who I am because I don't fucking hold my tongue. I live my truth. I do what I want, and I accept everybody for who they are if, and it is a big if they're willing to share with me who they are. And I think that's the real powerful point that I want to make here is if you're not willing to accept yourself, it's very hard for anybody else to accept you. And if your identity, as mine was, is pinned on money and financial status, nobody will truly accept you for who you are, and you will live a life of fear, guilt, shame, worry, low self-esteem, and the list can continue. So I love who I am. I'm currently sat outside what is called the Warriors Gym. My little girl is in there doing some kickboxing and some Muay Thai because she loves Kung Fu Panda, and so she wants to do Kung Fu. She's out there literally kicking ass. So hopefully that gives your listeners a bit of an insight to me, my journey, and kind of where I am now.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I love it. And I mean, I will just say, I'm just so grateful for the work that you've done with me in regards to intuitive everything, intuitive eating, intuitive exercising, intuitive relationships. And at the end of the day, that's money, right? What I love about what you said to me, and I if we can reproduce our coaching session a couple weeks ago around the doom and gloom of, low cash flow weeks or months or needing to reach all my revenue goals in the sake of fucking everything and everyone and what have you. And I don't operate like that, but a lot of my clients or past clients or people who want to be my clients, which you taught me that hell no, they're not going to be if that's the only end game. And so I would love for us to reproduce this conversation if we can. It's going to go where it goes around money. And, what I think what you started with me is it's all gone. It's all gone. And all you have as yourself, you have yourself 24/7. And you start the conversation with, it's false. Money is false. It's just a piece of paper.
Yeah. And let's look at that, right? So quite rightly, as you said there, if we start from the place of there's nothing else here, there's nothing, there is just you and the physical things around you, money doesn't exist. You have to start to think about, well, what are people going to see as value? What are people going to see as the things that truly matter? And it is things like your energy. It is things like your vibrancy. It is the way in which you hold yourself and you communicate and you interact. There's that cliche phrase of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And that phrase gets bounded around because nobody gives a shit about anybody. Like, let's be really real. Until they need to give a shit. And then they still will look at the individual with a pound sign or a dollar sign associated to it, like, oh, I'm going to be forever in debt of your kindness. How much is it going to cost me to repay you? And so when we start to, as you've alluded to there, look at the actual real life situation around money, and I encourage all of your listeners to go away and do this. And I don't know where it would be published with regards to like the Federal Reserve or, from the dollar's perspective. But on the UK Bank of England website, if you download their information, it tells you that money, but this is not money, we need to change our language, the currency that we know as the pound, it is nothing but trust on a piece of paper. That is it. That is it. Right. And let me give you a prime example of this. The monarch just died here in the UK. I'm going to say supposedly. The monarch just died here in the UK. Right. And what that means in terms of mechanism is that the cash has to be recalled and reprinted within a 12-month period. Right. But the cash with the Queen's head on it is going to be replaced with the cash with the King's head on it. They're both, let's say, £50 notes. Why is the one with the Queen's head on it going to be worth nothing when it was once worth £50, and the thing with the King's head on going to now be worth £50 when it was never in existence. It's literally two bits of paper side by side. And where the value shifts is nothing more than the Bank of England said, this one is now worth nothing. This one is now worth 50 quid. Same moment in time. We will have them side by side because we trust what the Bank of England is telling us, that this new one is worth £50 and this old one is worth nothing. There's no gold backing it. There's no tangible asset. There's nothing. In some regards, the paper that it is printed on is worth significantly more than anything else that £50 note will correspond to. It's nothing but trust. The relationship that you and I have built over the time that we've worked together is far more valuable than those £50 notes. Far more valuable.
Hell yes.
Because you can't take that away, that realness, that connection, that total understanding. You can't put a price tag on it. I can't pay you enough to trust me in the way that you trust me, other than by developing the relationship and exchanging the energy. Because the money's worth nothing. If I go to the bank today and go, right, I want to withdraw 100 grand, first thing they're going to tell me is, no, you can't. You're not allowed, because they don't actually have it. They don't have the money in the bank. It's not there. And the second thing is, if I went, okay, well, just give me 100 quid's worth of, £100,000 worth of gold instead then, because you've got a gold reserve, right? That's supposedly what you're supposed to have, the vault with all the gold and the silver in. I'll just take 100 grand's worth of gold. In the market right now, many listeners may not be aware, but there's a gold rush. All the banks are cashing in the reserves for as much physical gold as they can, because money's going to go pop, or currency is going to go pop. They wouldn't be able to give me the gold either. Why? Because it's not a purchase. I'm not purchasing the gold because the currency isn't backed by the gold, so they can't just swap one for the other. I would have to be requesting to purchase the gold via the bank in order to have the material thing. So what is it? Like, I've got a piece of laminate paper here, some nappy wipes for my 7-week-old son. They are worth as much as a £50 note in real terms, in real context. If I were to come up to you and say, this packet of wipes is worth 50 quid, give me 50 quid's worth of food from the store, people are going to laugh at me and go, you've lost your fucking mind, mate. Go away. Whereas in actual fact, what we've been duped to not see is that is what we do every day. When you take out your $100 bill and you pay, for your nice meal out or his fancy restaurant, wherever it is, that money never existed. It's just a piece of paper, and we gave it the value through trust. Do you want to add anything to that?
No, so if we're going to play, and let's play with this idea that money is just a piece of paper, right? So if you can wrap your head around that, which you and I worked really hard on, and almost identical to this conversation. Now what? Now what in regards to where you're like, okay, so money's not the be all and end all. And I love that you just said money's just a piece of paper that is backed by trust.
Absolutely. So let me ask your listeners this question. How many people actually trust you? Like, I mean, really fucking trust you, because some people say at work and your colleagues, they'll be like, oh yeah, such and such in the office, I trust them. Put your life on the line. Do you actually trust that individual when you need them most to drop everything and come and save you? Who actually trusts you? And if you couldn't pay them any money to come and help you, do they have that connection with you to trust you? And in the largest part, and I want everybody listening to sit on this, most people will be able to name one, if they get to one, possibly two people that they're not blood related to, who if in the utmost amount of need, they needed them, they would be there. Most of the people that we think are our friends are only our friends because of status, or because they feel that they have to be our friend. And so if we want to redefine our relationship with ourselves and the mechanism of money, let's start on the principle of trust. And we've had this conversation. So if you cannot name one or two people who trust you implicitly and will be there for you, then I ask you the second question of, do you trust yourself? And we have this conversation and have had this conversation because I talk a lot about, as you alluded to earlier, your primal instinct, that gut instinct. Your gut tells you far more than any textbook will, any college degree. You know, your gut is your biggest resource on intuition. And we don't listen to it. We've been told not to listen to it. We've been told to follow the academics, follow the logic, follow the knowledge. And what that's actually done is disconnected us from the ability to build trust with individuals. Subsequently, we feel insecure. We lack confidence. We lack the ability to do what's right for us in fear that people are going to throw opinions and judgments at us for what we did. They will come at the angle of the dollar sign that's attached to it. You know, what's it worth? Why would you do that? What's the return? What are you sacrificing financially to make that happen? Rather than, I feel compelled to help you. I feel compelled to be by your side. If you need me, implicitly, I will be there. And I'll give you an example of this, and this is what's changed my life. I run a men's community and a women's community for mothers and fathers. It's called Primal Fathers and Primal Mothers. I don't advocate it because, I say I don't advocate it, it's a movement, right? We're reshaping the way men and women think about who they really are. And I run that with two other gentlemen, a gentleman called Johannes and a gentleman called Philip. And we met because I was running my mouth on TikTok, right? I was saying all the things that nobody else wanted to say, talking about men's mental health and infertility and you know, some of the world current events, etc. And they reached out to me and said, I hear everything you're saying. I'm listening to everything you're saying. And I've known these gents for around 6 months. And I know, and they know as well, that at the drop of a hat, if they needed me or I needed them, I'd fucking be there. I would absolutely, if I had to up shit with my family, I would be there for them. Because we have established trust like no other. And one step further than that, I'm in the process of working with a larger group of individuals to build a community, all geared on trust. And I mentioned before, I've relocated from the south to the north. One of the gents, I've actually only ever met him in person once, but we've talked quite frequently. He traveled 300 miles, having met me once in person, to help me move up the country, because he trusts everything that I say and everything that I've done up until this point, and I've never let him down in the things that I said I was going to do. Never. And so I'll go back to the point on, where do we start? Build trust with people. Like, if people are only around you because of your status and how much money you have, then fucking get away from them. Like, get away from them. Because when all of that goes, and whether your listeners are tracking inflation and tracking the markets at the moment, but you know, there's some scary stuff going on with regards to the value of money, especially the dollar. I think the pound and the dollar are 1-for-1 at the moment in terms of exchange. And I think the euro, for the first time in a long time, has really dipped below the power of the dollar. So, you know, inflation is doing its thing globally on currency at the moment. But when all of that goes away and nobody has the financial status that they had, you're only going to be left with yourself. And so if you're around go on.
Yeah, I want to say something about that, because I'm listening to you talk, and you know, you're talking about your status and what have you, but two things are popping up for me right now. Let's talk about trust and the people that really truly believe that you trust. That you trust and they can lean on you, that you will drop everything and show up for them. Our listeners are probably like, oh, yeah. No bullshit, because I get the phone calls from their employees. Or, I do recruiting, and I'm on the phone with the business owner, the potential person that's on a path of growth. They're meeting their revenue goals, or doubling, tripling, whatever that it is. And when I talk to them, like, they don't trust anyone. I'll send them candidates, and it's like, what are they going to do for me? What have you? And this context around money, right? We're all in the personal service industry. We're not on eBay huffing e-com. We're not selling, bikes or any product or what have you. We're selling relationship, and that includes your team. So the entrepreneurs, in my experience, are constantly, when you're talking about status, when you're talking about trust, I can already see them. What they tell me is that the relationship they're thinking about is the one between them and the client. And then the relationship that they're thinking about is the one in their referral sources and how great they look on Instagram and Facebook and their Facebook ads and all that shit. But their employees tell me they won't give them their time. They will not give them any relation with them whatsoever. And as you know, I'm reading a book right now, and that I am going to fucking go to my grave trying to transform this movement of changing the one from the employer to employer, from one of transaction to relationship, because the employers just look at the people that I'm paying better be doing something so I get a return on investment from them. That's the measuring stick, period. But then they make themselves completely not available for them. Their employees will tell me they're too busy. They're hustling. They're chasing the money. They're all about, more. Fill the calendar, fill the pipeline, fill everything. But they won't even give them a fucking ounce of time. And when they do, they get the shittiest, crappiest version of them. And it's all about, what's the ROI? I'm paying you to do a job, and I'm not getting this return on investment. So why am I going to spend time with you?
And unfortunately for the corporate world, for capitalism, whatever angle you want to come at it, that's its building block. That's the foundation. What is the return? We talk about, you mentioned before about scaling businesses. Like, I watch individuals in the coaching industry sharing their Stripe account, and we're here changing our clients' lives. Here's my Stripe account. Here's 500 grand this month. Go through my Stripe account because we're changing people's lives. Fuck off. No, you're not. You're doing it because it's paying you well. And if I take that money away from you, everyone's just going to think you're an ignorant prick. And this is the reality check that people are not having. And I think that, like, let's flip the script on this, right? If the only business model out there was via donation, okay, let's go down the charitable route. If the only business model was via donation, your niche, your ideal client avatar was only allowed to pay you in donation what they perceived your business brought to them in value, can categorically guarantee a lot of these big business firms would go out of business instantly, because people would see no value in what they actually offer, because money just became almost, not significantly, but almost irrelevant, because it was now purchaser power, not the employer's power or the business's power. The power lied with the purchaser. If I don't have a great trust relationship with you, then I'm not going to pay you. And I'll give a live example of this. I recently got a Jeep, a nice, what seems to be now known to me as a mafia car. If I was in the States, I didn't realize that when I bought it, but read into that what you will. And the service that I got from the individual was dog shit. And I really had to have some heated conversations on the phone with the individual. And they constantly came at me with, we've got 40 years experience in the industry, and do you not believe that we deal with this stuff every single day? And, and do you not see that we're effective and efficient in what we're doing? And I said to the gent, I was like, but if we want to get really factual, your company is an incorporated piece of paper. Your company doesn't email me. Your company doesn't call me on the phone. I say, I'll be very fucking impressed if a company picked up the phone to me, because it's an incorporation. It's a piece of paper. I'm dealing with you, the man, on the phone, who I currently have no trust with, no respect for, and therefore you will receive the same level of service back from me as I've received from you, because that's where we are on a real term. So imagine that was the driving force behind your business. Imagine that the only way you got paid was to genuinely impact somebody's life and build a trust basis relationship with them. Business would be very different. And people would also treat money very differently, because they would value the individual that they deal with significantly more than the money that they paid them. And they would genuinely, dramatically change people's lives.
I want to bring this really, really personal too, because for a lot of our listeners, they think that they do things for free, right? That if they have colleagues that need help with a certain marketing strategy or what have you, I get on the phone with them, or I hop in a Zoom room with them, and I give them all my wisdom and drive-by coaching, all my tips and techniques, and I don't send them a bill, what have you. And I'll bring it back to me, because you and I had this conversation a couple weeks ago. I go, oh, Grant, don't worry, because I'm already doing this. I'll go, let me give you an example. Somebody asked me if they could get on a call with me the other day, and I said, absolutely. They're not an existing client. They're a past client. I hop on the Zoom with them. I talk with them, what have you. And at the end of the day, I had asked them, they're like, how can we pay you? And I go, no, don't worry about it. Just refer people back to me and give me a Google review. And you said to me, bullshit. That was just all about, at the end of the day, money. Remember
100%.
that conversation?
Loud and clear. I knew exactly what you were going to say when you said, I'm going to share a personal example. I knew. And this is the thing, is we think we're being charitable. And when we do that, exactly as you've alluded to, and I hope that some of your listeners are going, fuck, I do that. In that, no, don't pay me, just share my kindness,
Yes.
just go
tell
and
people about me, become a walking ambassador and say how amazing I am. It's still about money. It's still about, you can coin it as, well, that was marketing, or it was networking, or what have you. At the end of the day, you're the ultimate, and that's what you said to me. What's the ultimate result of this? I'm like, well, yeah, that'll get a client out of it, or they can refer someone to me. You're like, it's not coming from a place of true connection. Like there's absolutely no strings attached. And ever since that time, I've been very clear and intentional and checking in with my intuition and my gut about, why am I doing this?
And that is a great question. And it's really important that people start to understand this, because let's take, like, I got a first-class degree, right? And I tell nobody about it, because I learned that as long as I provided in my essays and my dissertations and my assignments what the university wanted to see, I would get a first-class degree. As long as my pen wrote down what they wanted to see, I would get first class. That was it. And that is all I did. I'm not an academic. I never advocate that I have been, but I knew what I needed to do to get the result. And that transpires into business. We look at a sale and a sales process, the 7 to 12 touch points we need to take the customer through in order to build the relationship to get the sale. We've got to build the relationship and be the authority figure to get the sale. Like, in any form of business, show me a process that doesn't result in new sale, retained business, or better reoccurring revenue on the bottom line. Like, show me a process, because tangibly or intangibly, that's the outcome, right? You can't influence the EBITDA of a business if sales and revenue aren't either secure or going up. Nobody's going to buy a failing business. And even all of this language construct that I'm using right now, it's all geared around money. And I said this before, money is just a mechanism to control resource, right? I'm a resource, you're a resource. The supplies that we buy from the store are resources. Money is the control mechanism. And so, as we're experiencing right now, inflation is driving the value of that money down. So we need more of it to buy the same things. You know, look at the cost of living at the moment here in the UK, like it's encroaching on a 30% increase in the cost of living, right? So somebody who earns 100 grand a year right now has got to earn 130 grand a year to stand still. Just to stand still, 30% more increase. So if you're not scaling your business and you're not doing all of these things to increase money naturally and systematically right now, how the fuck are you going to do it at 30% more in the next couple of months when inflation's going to continue to go up? And I go back to my point. You've built relationships on trust and you've built relationships in connecting with people. That doesn't inflate. All you have to do is be there. All you have to do is show up and be the most authentic, which is a bounded around word, but the most authentic version of yourself every single day. And be true to who you are so that you can be true with the individuals you connect with. And at that point, if you've got fuck all money in the bank and your business goes bust and you've got to declare bankruptcy, the one thing that you have is, you know, you can pick up the phone and go, I'm fucked, can you help me? And you're going to have a plethora of individuals who are going to go, I'll be there in a moment. I'll be there for you. We'll sort this out. I've got your back. We're going to do this together. You don't
including
have
your
that.
including your team. Like if you have that with your team, and I've seen law firms and I've seen businesses that they are in that point where, and I love it you said that, because this is the sticky part of you being really comfortable with trust, relationships, authenticity. And I hate that word anymore because everybody's bastardizing authentic relationships, authenticity. Nobody knows what the fuck it means, especially if you don't live it and it's not in your bones and blood. But at the end of the day, the message that I want for the business owners to see, because when you lose it all, and I've seen people that lose it all, they're not scrambling, they're not freaking out, they're not in this place of crisis. And because they know that they can rally their people, their true tribe, and say, okay, we're in trouble right now. And they're going to say, okay, awesome. Like, this is exciting. Now let's have some fun. Let's get to the whiteboard. Let's strategize. What do we want to do together? But more importantly, what just hit me is, can we take a pause and make sure, who do we want to be this time around? Like, can we just really check in and make sure, like, you and I had this conversation a couple of days, and I'm telling you about these horrible clients I have, pain in the ass, like my bottom feeder ones that my team won't even want to work for anymore. They're just so disconnected to themselves, to their team. Everything's about money, KPIs or what have you. And I'm telling you this and what have you. And you said to me, and correct me, keep me honest here, but like, well, like, where are you out of integrity with who you truly are right now? Because the way you're telling me that you're interacting with these people, you're being a sacrificial lamb. Why didn't you just reply with fuck off? Why didn't, and then we talked about why you don't do that in business, and we cleaned up the language a little bit, and you helped me so much with how to reply to that, to tell them that maybe I'm not a good fit for them and what have you, but this is how I run my business. This is who I am. And that's changed everything for me. And I think that conversation was 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. And it's a hard conversation, one, to have with yourself, to enable yourself to do that. And two, it's then the hard conversation to articulate, because you have no control over the emotional response on the other end. And again, we've been conditioned to blame. We've been conditioned to not trust. We've been conditioned to point the finger. It's not me, it's you. And so when we do that, we hand over the control. We're now out of control. We're chaotic in our approach. And let's go back to the point. Nobody builds trust in a state of chaos, right? Nobody wants to build trust with anybody who is erratic, who is irrational, who you cannot have a conversation with. It just does not happen. And we need to be able to align ourselves with the individuals where we genuinely want to give our time. give our energy, give all of our knowledge and expertise, no matter what price, if any price is being charged. Because on an energetic, connected level, we just fucking love it. We love being there. We love the time. We love the space. We love all of that stuff. And we'll give it unconditionally, no matter how much or how little the individuals are paying us. And I say very few people actually get there. And we forget, or we don't know, that we are the creator. We're the creator of our own money. We're the creator of, and I'm going to come back to that because we're talking about money. I encourage your listeners, whilst they might be in the legal and the financial space, to actually understand how money is issued, right? There was a 16-year study done on banks. I'm not going to get into the detail of it, but banks don't hold money. Based on the deposits that are made into a bank, they only actually have to have 11 to 15% of the equivalent cash deposits available. So for every 10 grand you put into the bank only have to have about 1,100 of it available at any one time, which is why if we all went into the bank today and said, right, I want to withdraw all my cash, they would never be able to supply it because of fractional banking and everything else they do behind the scenes. But also when we look at lines of credit in the form of securities is all that banks do, right? It's all they trade. They just trade all forms of mortgage deeds and securities and checks and promissory notes, if your listeners are familiar with those, and all of these financially tradable instruments. That's what banks do. They trade instruments. They don't hold or produce cash. So when we start to look at this and we understand the mechanisms by which it's all fulfilled, and we understand that principle that we are the creator of the instrument, of the mortgage, of the promissory note, of the check, of the whatever it might be, we hold all the power. One of the biggest eye-openers for people when they speak to me now is that I have no holes barred. And I hope that your listeners have got that feel here, because I understand that I am the creator of my financial position, of my energetic position, of my reality, of my map of the world, of my territory, of my emotional experience. Like, you name it, I create it, and I love what I create. Do I get it right every day? Do I fuck? And do I mess up all the time? Of course. But I'm willing to learn, and I'm willing to accept what I've created. And because of that, going back, making this relevant on the trust piece, I'm willing to accept everybody else for who they are. And I go back to my statement right at the beginning, if they're willing to share who they really are, I'm willing to accept anybody and everybody in understanding them as a being. Money doesn't allow you to do that. Money keeps us divided. Money keeps us striving for something that can be taken away from us immediately. How many people have you seen or heard of at the moment who are having their accounts frozen? If you were the creator of your money and you had full control of it, who could freeze your assets? No one, because it's yours. And again, this is a big mindset game, and it's a shift. But going back to that conversation, and that's that conversation that we have. Like, if you are not aligned with individuals who literally make you vibrate at the highest level and help you create the highest abundance of energy around, it's going to be a hard slog. And you're going to hate yourself at points because they don't care about you as much as you care about yourself in the grand scheme of things. And what absorbing that actually does is causes us to not like ourselves, puts us in a dark hole. And we can draw it back to those relationships being built around financial transactions and not much else.
Or we have this false perception, as you're saying, that like, I love myself. I'm rocking it. Look at me. I was featured here and featured there, and I'm rocking it. And in my community, everybody on vote is, in the US, we have these things that are this award that you get called super lawyer that everybody knows you pay for. Well, clients don't know that, but I have all these, look at me. I love myself. You might be completely delusional around that. So maybe you could give us a power question or a quick little exercise to go back, because I love everything you're saying. It's all gone. All right. Your money's frozen, or you have no money, or money's not even an equation. Money is a strategic byproduct, and money is whatever meaning you give it. based on the relationships that you have, based on your relationship with yourself. Like, I always thought that I really value myself and love myself until I started working with you. And I mean, like, it's in my bones, and we're only getting started. And so, what would you give to our listeners right now about they're really truly the relationship that I think that supports them in finding out who they really are, that supports them in having whatever it is they want in this life, whether it be monetary or working 1 day a week and being with their kids and taking them to kickboxing or what have you, and taking vacations and all that. Money allows for that, but at the end of the day, it all goes away. And then you can't have the vacations, you can't have that life and what have you. And I'm lobbying hard for the relationships in the business context that support you with having the life of your dreams, and will support you and tell you, show you, help you, support you in figuring out who you really are, is your team. And it's the people that you employ. That's who we spend the most amount of time with, even over clients. And sometimes they're not spending any time with them, but that's the time that they should really just like get a real relationship with them, a true relationship built on trust.
So where I would recommend people start is, before you can build trust with anyone, you have to build trust with yourself. And if you don't trust yourself, you don't trust your gut, you don't trust your instinct, then everything that you forge relationship wise moving forward with other people will largely be built on sand, and it'll be quicksand. You will start to build and you will feel like things fall apart. And 99.9% of the time, it's not the other person, it's you, because you are building off of something that ultimately doesn't exist, which is self-trust. So my recommendation here, we're in the entrepreneurial space, we're told we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And so we're always upping our circle, right? But you spend 24/7 with yourself. And the majority of people will never listen to themselves. They won't listen to their own counsel. And the reason is they're scared. They are scared of what they're going to hear. They're scared of what they say to themselves, so they keep themselves distracted. So the first thing that I encourage everybody to do, and you've got to be open-minded in your approach to this, because most individuals sack this off, but it changed my life, and I know it's changed many others, including yourself.
Yep.
Number one, take your shoes off and take your socks off and go outside somewhere. Might be the woods, might be a field, somewhere, and plant your feet directly into the ground. And on top of that, just sit in silence or stand in silence for the longest possible time. It don't matter the weather, it doesn't matter the location. Get out in nature and sit with yourself. I've had clients that were twitching and wanted to do something in less than 20 seconds.
I bet.
Their attention span could not get past 20 seconds without the impulsiveness. I feel like I'm wasting my time. I should be doing something. I'm not productive. How much could I have missed out on by doing this? Our mind goes there. And the biggest challenge for everybody listening will be to stay there for hours. And I genuinely mean hours. And as individuals, we have 50 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and we can only process between 5 and 9 at any one time. A great example of this is if you change something in the morning, you forget stuff when you leave the house because your mind can't comprehend the new stuff as well as the old stuff. So we forget things in the middle. But if you've got 50 to 70,000 thoughts, if you do nothing for a good couple of hours with your feet grounded into the earth's energetic field, your mind's going to wander. And a lot of those thoughts are going to start to come out. And what that allows you to do is to see who and where you really are. The shit that will go through your mind, the disgusting self-talk that will come out, the things that you'll say to yourself, the worry, the concern, the things you haven't done, the people you feel that you've let down, the guilt, the shame, the dread. that will be all the stuff that comes out way before the excitement, the gratitude, the abundance, all the things that in this fucking pink, fluffy entrepreneurial space that we're told that we're supposed to have, right? But go and spend some time with yourself. And I categorically say this to anybody and everybody: if you can't spend time with yourself and be at peace, you've got no fucking hope. Because you spend time with yourself all day, every day. And if you can't find peace in home here, you ain't finding peace nowhere. You're really not. So that is my biggest piece of advice on where people can start. It really is.
Oh my goodness. I think right there is mic drop. Thank you, Grant. If you feel compelled to connect with Grant, by all means, look him up on Facebook. And I really hope that you all took something. I know I learned so much even today. So reach out, let me know if I can help you with your team, if I can help you. You know where to find us, hiringandempowering.com. And in the show links, we will have all this stuff there. Until next time, continue being leaders, leading leaders. We've reached the end of another impactful conversation on the Hire and Empower podcast. Whether this was your first episode or you're a longtime listener, I know you can tell I have passion for people. Whether you're a business owner, employee, executive, or hiring manager, I understand the situation you're in. Hiring, onboarding, and leadership is expensive, exhausting, overwhelming, and if that's not enough, it's also time-consuming. My friends, it doesn't have to be this way. There is a team at H&E that has your back. For over 25 years, they've transformed over 4,000 law firms into efficient, effective, profitable assets for their business and made it fun to come to work again. Check out our Smart Hire solution, our employee leadership program, and the 66-day law firm turnaround at hiringandempowering.com.